Welcome back to the Nostalgia Podcast Monthly Movie Night, where once a month we talk all about movies we remember watching as kids. In this episode, we'll be reminiscing about the cult classic movie Napoleon Dynamite. From the tots to the dancing, we'll go over just what made this movie such a success. So grab your remote and take a trip down memory lane on the Nostalgia Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Nostalgia Podcast. I'm your host, John, and I'm joined here with two lovely other hosts. We got the one and only Becky that keeps just coming back over and over again. How's it going, Beckles?
Hey, Joe Nathan. How you doing?
Joe Nathan. Where did it even come from?
It's Jonathan, but
that's literally my name. I guess that makes sense. You just kind of been like back and forth calling me Joe Nathan anytime I call you Beckles.
Yeah, like, Joe Nathan. It's like two separate names but put together, and it's Jonathan. Yeah,
that's fair. That's still a weird way to say it. Mostly because nobody really calls me Jonathan. It's a little weird.
All right, I'll just say Joe Nathan.
That is not any better in the least bit. You're wrong direction. Wrong direction. We're also joined by someone else who has a very, very basic name here. We got Nick. Nick, how's it going?
It's going pretty basic, I have to say. I'm sitting here sipping on a pumpkin spice latte.
Oh yeah,
and it's going great.
Ooh, that sounds nice. Although this late in the day,
you wearing your
having
boots?
Coffee? Your Ugg boots?
Oh yeah. I've got the whole Han Solo get up.
Nice. Yeah. I could see. You know what? If there was someone who was going to rock some Uggs on this podcast, it would 100% be Nick.
All right.
I don't know what that means, and I don't know if it was an insult or not, but we'll proceed.
No, not at all. Not at all. He'd be the one who walks by and you'd see and go, pulling it off. Well, welcome everybody. This is our first ever monthly movie night. So it's going to be a little different than a normal podcast. We're basically just going to go over a movie that we all decided on beforehand. And if you click down this video or listing, you probably know too, because it's in the title. But for anyone who is completely just not paying attention to anything, the movie for this month, that too. The movie for this month is going to be Napoleon Dynamite. So this movie is such a polarizing movie for people in general. I swear, there's people who absolutely adore the film, and there's people that will never, ever watch it and swear that they would burn it if they could. So we'll go over all of our thoughts, all of our opinions, any stories that we have, as well as a couple of things that were going on during the time frame of this movie, which I think was kind of cool. But to start off with, we're actually going to just go over some quick little things about the movie in case you don't know. We'll go over the synopsis, a quick little synopsis, as well as watch the trailer for it. Technically, spoilers involved. So if you haven't watched the movie, stop the podcast here, but keep it up. Go watch the movie, come back, and join us, because it's going to be great.
Yeah. And today seems like it's the day of firsts, because I think this is the first time that we've had the same guest host back to back, right?
I think so.
Nick 2 times in a row.
Yeah, because I'm a regular now.
Yeah.
Yep. Is the real host up in here.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So Napoleon Dynamite is a movie that came out in 2004. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was
doesn't feel like
19 years ago.
But when you do the math, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I don't want to do the math. That was a little bit scary. Looking on IMDb, it's got a 6.9 nice out of 10 rating, which is, I think, where I would expect it. But when we get to the end, we will actually give our own ratings and give a nice little medium score between all of us, and be able to plot that down. So for future movie nights, we'll be able to compare them and see how they stack up against each other. But The Napoleon Dynamite movie came out in 2004, and the synopsis is a listless and alienated teenager decides to help his new friend win the class presidency in their small Western high school. He must deal with the bizarre family life back home. Pretty simple, and it's only like one sentence, but I think it really sums up the entire movie instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and check out the trailer here for it. Let me go ahead and make sure it's not blaring in everyone's ears. There we go.
Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills. You know, like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills.
How was school?
Worst day of my life? What do you think? Idiot. What kind of bike do you have?
It's a sledgehammer.
Dang, you ever take it off any sweet jumps?
What are you drawing?
A liger.
What's a liger?
It's my favorite animal. It's like a lion and a tiger mixed.
Why are you so sweaty?
I've been practicing some dance moves. Is Trisha here?
Is that in my driveway?
That's my ride.
There it is, Napoleon Dynamite. So like I said, we've all watched this in the last week or so that we're able to talk about it a little bit better. But the first thing I'm really curious about, and I figure this is a great place to start, I want to know where you guys first remember watching this movie. Because this is the Nostalgia Podcast, I think it's appropriate that we go over nostalgic movies, and that includes when you saw it as kids. So we'll start with Nick first. Nick, when was the first time you saw this movie?
All right. So this movie came out in 2004. I was a senior in high school at the time.
Prime time for this movie.
I did not see it in theaters. When you talk about it being polarizing, I was definitely on the this shouldn't exist side. Just didn't get what it was about. I was a high school student at the time, so it being a quote high school movie was just weird. I did watch it when it came out on video, and still really did not like it.
Aha! So you're one of the people that just does not jive with this movie whatsoever.
Right, that's where I was the first time around.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. What about you, Becky? When was the first time you remember watching this movie?
Yeah. So, I mean, geez, in 2004, I was turning 11. So I wasn't really watching movies of my own volition yet. Right. So I definitely watched it much later than a lot of people probably did for the first time. And honestly, it's kind of fun because I'm not really a big movie person. I don't watch movies or get excited about movies, and everybody in high school is quoting all these different movies and stuff, and I just wasn't that person and just didn't know what they were even quoting or anything like that. I just wasn't really into the movie scene. And so the only reason that I'd even and it's funny, I've watched Napoleon Dynamite a grand total in my life 2 times. The first time I ever watched it, and the time I watched it within the past week for this podcast. So the first time I watched it was the only reason that I watched it is because my stepbrother basically made me, he was like, "Oh, you have to watch this movie. I can't believe you haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite." And so I was, I can't even tell you how old I was, but it was a while back, but it certainly wasn't anywhere close to right after release of it. And he was like, "I can't believe you haven't seen this. You got to watch it." And so it was at my stepmom's old house that she used to live in way back then. And we'd first started hanging out with my stepbrothers and stuff. So it was I very distinctly remember that because it was like I wasn't super familiar with these people yet, and then it was like, oh man, you got to watch this movie, it's great. And then they like stuck Napoleon Dynamite on, and we watched it. And
It's a
so
strange one to bond over.
Yeah.
yeah, that's and so I'm pretty sure based on that, my stepbrother was probably on that side of, oh my god, this is the best movie ever, kind of probably at that time, like just he was like, we were really into like the random humor and stuff like that, like really random whatever stuff, and so that kind of fit the bill, I guess, there. So that was the first time I watched it. Yeah.
So I was actually almost along those same lines as both of you, honestly. I didn't watch it in theaters. Whether that was because it just wasn't something that I was really interested in back then, or if it just was that I really didn't go to movies that often. So the closest movie theater to me was probably about 35 minutes away-ish, and I was 12. So I didn't have a car. I didn't have a way of getting there. And I would have to find either a way or ask my parents to go. And one thing that my parents wouldn't watch is a dumb humor comedy like this. This is definitely not up their lane. This is like the stuff that they want to burn. So we'll we never really went to go see it. But later on, I remember a buddy of mine having the VHS of it. And he brought it over and he was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. Like the best movie I've ever seen. And back then I was that not edgy kid, but like that random funny kid that trying to make everything into that type of comedy. So it was right up my alley back then. It had to have been almost a year or two after it came out. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 2006, 2007. And we watched it, and I remember just laughing my ass off at this movie, at every single joke, at every single, like, the second he said Tina, you fat lard, and I just those things just made me just die laughing. And it was something that I remembered as a kid pretty fondly because of that. And I remember we duplicated the VHS because that was something you could do back then.
Yeah.
So that I could have a copy.
Hold on. But in the beginning, the FBI warning shows you shouldn't do that, but you did it anyway.
I don't think there were those warnings on VHS, were there?
Oh yeah, there were.
Oh, there were? I remember that on DVDs, like, you wouldn't steal a car.
Oh, yeah. No, it was like a big blue background screen with the FBI logo on the top left and the big text and everything. Oh, yeah.
Well, statute of limitations, I'm guessing, is over 29 or 20 years. So I think I'm safe.
Nope.
They're
I'm calling.
You guys hear that knock on the door? I'm getting swatted.
I already texted the FBI while we were on the podcast, so have
fun.
fun.
Good. Oh, great. Yeah, I was definitely the prime audience for this movie back when. So I I remember looking at it fondly, and that's why when we came up with the idea for Monday movie night, and Nick was coming up with recommendations and said Napoleon Dynamite, I was like, oh boy, now there's one. I haven't seen this movie in years, like years and years and years. So I was like, this is going to be perfect because some people really like it, some people really hate it, and we want to know what you guys think. So make sure you leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening on something else, pull your car over to the side of the road or take the headphones off, go to YouTube, and leave a comment on what you thought about Napoleon Dynamite so that we can see everyone else's thoughts and ideas about what they did as a kid.
Don't comment and drive.
Don't comment and drive.
That's
right.
How
you get in huge trouble.
You got to pull over right now.
Get right
now. Pull over. Comment.
Cause 4 accidents. But along those same lines, I think we're all kind of along the same lines of like, didn't watch it when it first came out, but we have 3 different opinions on the actual movie.
So I have to I have to ask Nick. So when you watched it on VHS, did someone like con you into it, or were you just curious yourself and decided that you wanted to watch it on VHS?
I just decided to watch it.
Oh
I
yeah,
love movies. I think
and you were
my
like, all right, it's
Letterboxd
finally
is
time.
at like 3,000 right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I try and I try and give everything a shot.
Yeah, nice.
I've been working on my letterbox. I have. Ever since you told me about it, I've been trying to keep track and actually, use it like it's supposed to be used because I think it's so cool. Becky
Yeah.
would get zero use out of it.
I think with
Probably.
our monthly movie night, we should probably get a nostalgia podcast Letterboxd account spun up.
Ooh, not a bad idea. Let me keep track of everything there.
I do not know what Letterbox is, but I'm guessing it's like how you keep track of. Oh, okay, yeah. We promised Letterboxd didn't sponsor this. I don't know if it's a paid service or not, but
if they want to,
but
we'll be a part of Letterboxd.
Right?
Hey,
Yeah.
we'll make a monthly movie night sponsored by Letterboxd. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That'd actually be a pretty fitting sponsorship if we could get one. But
yeah, I agree. Especially for these ones. So,
yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about here, now that we know when we first watched it, initial thoughts, I want to talk about a little bit of what was going on when this movie came out, because I think that's really important, trying to bring back memories and stuff like that. But I looked up some news articles, I looked up some movies, I looked up a whole bunch of stuff on this, and really there wasn't a whole ton going on in 2004. So 2004 had a bunch of great movies that came out, but news-wise, there wasn't a whole ton. I did find that the Red Sox did win the World Series in 2004.
Nice.
So that was really big. And then
I
also,
do not follow baseball, but I am a Red Sox fan.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no.
Why are you a Red Sox fan if you don't follow? It's not even like you're from Boston.
I know. But like, so basically, everybody in my area, in the greater area that I live in, that I hope this is general enough.
Alaska.
The Yankees are the favorite. And
Yeah.
so when I was younger, I was very counterculture, right? And so I just wanted to like basically the Yankees rival. And I was like, I like the Red Sox now.
I can see it. The hipster.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't like any team because I don't watch baseball. So that makes
Yeah,
it
I'm
easy.
there with you, John.
That's the stance that should probably be taken. But instead, when I was younger, if it does, still really doesn't make any sense. I don't have anything I don't have anything that shows that I'm a Red Sox fan. Like no, like shirts or
It's just
desk
in the back
things
of your mind.
It's just
someone
there,
comes
yeah.
with baseball and goes, "Let's go Red Sox!"
yeah, pretty like almost literally, yeah. And then like
a
when the Red Sox
Russian
do something
sleeping
good,
agent.
yeah.
You say the
Oh my
the specific words of Yankees are awesome, and just
I'm just wired. Yeah. No, I can't explain it, but basically like I get like a little tingle of happiness if I see that the Red Sox did something good in the news, even though there's literally no reason for it. I don't even know all the rules to baseball anymore. Like I don't follow baseball at all. Yeah. It's just weird. Random facts.
in these difficult times, anything that can give you some joy, Becky, go for it.
Right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
We
Yeah.
appreciate your tingles.
Yeah.
Appreciate the Becky
Mate.
tingles.
Listen, I'd like to share my happiness tingles everywhere I go. All right.
That is a really creepy sentence. I don't think it's one of the sentences where it probably hasn't been said many times in human
Right.
history.
In fact, I'd
Becky's
love
got
to
keep
share.
his happy tingles about 200 yards away from the school zone.
I'd love to share my happy tingle with everybody on the planet, but the law says I cannot do that.
What law is there specifically about Becky tingles?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Anyway, so the other thing that I saw in the news that actually seemed decently big was the year that the Statue of Liberty reopened after 9/11, because this was what 3 years after 9/11.
Yeah, that's dang. It took them 3 years to do that.
I mean,
That's-
yeah.
I mean, sure.
They're playing it pretty safe,
Yeah,
with,
they were.
the current events of the time.
Yeah. I bet that they just like, I mean, obviously there was the initial shock, and then I bet a lot of that time was like really beefing up security, before they felt
I'm
comfortable
sure. Yeah.
reopening. Yeah.
Yeah. Another American
that's
monument.
crazy.
They probably did that a lot of places.
Right.
Yeah, especially in DC. But yeah, that was the only two big things that I saw. If anyone else has big things that happened in 2004 that I missed, let us know. But
even if it's just big to you.
Exactly.
What happened to you in 2004? What was your life doing?
My life sucked. It didn't
Wow.
suck, but
I was going to say, if you're saying life sucked when you were 12, Jesus.
Exactly, yeah. Like, my life was pretty, like, all things considered, I lived a pretty baseline life leading up to doing this podcast. That's the highlight of my day. Week. We do this weekly, not daily. Let's do it daily. Yep.
Daily.
Let's all do podcast every day.
Oh, man.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Looking over a couple of the movies that actually came out in 2004, other than Napoleon Dynamite, we have some classics like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. That was pretty big. Mean Girls came out in 2004. It's a cult classic. We'll have to do that at one point. The Notebook, the classic romance story. Oh yeah, Dawn of the Dead. But the one that holds a special place in my heart that I did see in theaters was The Incredibles, the original one.
The Incredibles came out in 2004?
Yes. Yep.
Nice.
That came out in 2004, and I still look at that as one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's a good movie. That was
it was
a great movie. Yeah.
And we'll talk about it when we talk about Pixar, which would be cool because that was in fact Pixar. And when we talk about the different Disney movies back then, because we'll talk about different eras in Disney movies too, not just like specific Disney movies, but we'll see as things go. We'll figure that more out. But yeah, there were a couple others like Saw, The Butterfly Effect, The Girl Next Door, Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, the Day After Tomorrow. Oh my God. Oh,
Dodgeball apparently came out too. Day After Tomorrow was a horrifically bad movie.
That it was, yeah. But honestly, so it came out in 2004. I get that movie was like, I was like, damn, this is gonna happen. Like, this is the apocalypse, man.
Right? I had nightmares after watching that movie.
Yeah, also in 2004 for fans of 2D animation, Howl's Moving Castle.
Really?
Oh, wow. That's a lot more recent than I would have figured, honestly. For like, is Studio Ghibli like still doing, like, still pumping out movies
From time to time?
Yeah, okay.
I feel like Hayao Miyazaki tends to retire after every movie and then comes back like 5
and then comes,
They have them playing all the time in Syracuse at the Regal Cinema.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly playing them.
Really?
Yeah, they're really good though.
I mean, but also, Studio Ghibli is fantastic.
Anchorman came out in 2004.
Oh wow, that is a movie that so many people quoted so much.
Wow, there are a ton of these movies that 2004 was a freaking year. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of these. Okay, ready? National Treasure, A Series of Unfortunate Events, I, Robot, Blade, Meet the Fockers. Where was it? $1 Million Baby. Where was it? 50 First Dates, Shrek 2, The Phantom of the Opera, Euro Trip, Van Helsing, like Shaun of the Dead. Jeez.
Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. So did Dawn of the Dead come out and then Shaun of the Dead literally less than a year later come out?
It looks like it, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, the Dawn of the Dead from 2004 was a remake of the 1978.
That explains it. That explains it.
There it is.
All right. So as you can see, Napoleon Dynamite had stiff competition that year.
Yeah.
And it came out dead center of the year, too. Usually, you'll get movies that come out later on in the year or earlier in the year. Usually, the center ones are just not really the big ones, right?
Yeah. And I think you listed a couple of them just now as well. But very widely known fact, everybody knows this probably, but Napoleon Dynamite was an indie film.
Yes.
So
I think it was a Sundance film, right?
That sounds familiar.
I think so.
But yeah, so it was like an indie film, and so I mean, it for being an indie film, it did pretty good. You know,
It was
like,
indie. I'm pretty sure it
very
got picked up and distributed here by MTV. So that definitely
It was
made
MTV.
take off.
Yes.
oh yeah, it was MTV. Yep.
Yeah, as noted 3 hours ago when I did my second watch through.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
does anyone want to guess the budget of that film, of Napoleon Dynamite? I feel like this
How
could
much-
go either way because I don't think Becky knows how much movies cost to make.
No, how much do llamas cost?
Llamas they probably used alpacas, not llamas, because they're cheaper.
Oh, why would you
I actually
know that?
don't know. I don't know that.
Okay. I was all right. I was like, what the hell?
I think alpacas can live in harsher climates better than llamas can, and that's why you see them up near us a little bit more.
Huh.
Fun fact that I knew. But yeah, what do you guys think for a budget for this movie?
$50,000,
I'd
All right.
go
probably higher than that.
like 2-3 mil.
2, 3.
Oh.
Those are two very different numbers.
Those
And-
are, yeah.
Oddly enough, it's dead center. It's actually
Oh, really?
$400,000,
Wow.
which
Wow.
is
That is low
incredibly
budget.
small. Yes. Like this is basically like handheld cameras and pay the actors. And that's
So
it.
honestly, story aside, they did a damn good job for 400. Like for that kind of budget, they did a damn good job on that movie. quality-wise.
100%. Yes. Yeah, they did an absolute bang up job on it. Like good for them. And because I think it made the box office numbers for it are $46 million on
Whew.
a
That's a nice little
$400,000
profit
budget. Yeah. That
Wow.
is 2 decimal places.
That's
like-
nuts.
Yeah, so it was, and just to give a little reference to around that same year, Mean Girls was the other movie another big movie that year. That one had a budget of $130 million,
Wow.
and by that I mean it made 130, not the budget was 130.
Oh, okay. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it
That's
was
very different.
17 million was the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I misspoke because I was looking at the wrong thing. And I forgot to scroll down. But yeah, so
That's all right.
$17 million for the budget, and it made 130 million. So it was there's a big difference between 400,000 and 17 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little
And
bit.
it shows. But now that we've talked about like the different things that happened during that time, I want to know, now that you both rewatch this movie, I want to know what your thoughts are as a grown-ass adult on Napoleon Dynamite. We'll start again with Nick. Nick, when you were watching this, how'd it go? What did you think of the movie?
It went way better for me this time around.
Really?
So, yeah, I had a little more feeling for the characters themselves.
Okay.
Not being a 17-year-old watching it, definitely enjoyed some of the awkwardness that was going on. Well, I guess the whole movie is one big strung
Yes.
together
Cringe
amalgamation
fest, if you will.
of awkward events. But yeah, I feel like I could see a little more depth in the characters. I kind of felt a little sadder for most of the characters in the film than
I
I
get
did
that.
the first time around.
Yeah.
Great casting. I
Oh, yeah.
really liked the
Oh,
casting.
yeah.
And a lot of the people in this film really didn't do too much outside of this film.
No. Actually, funny you mentioned that. The main character, the main girl character, the only one, she was in a very, very, very old movie that I remember watching a ton of called Andre. It was about a seal,
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So she was the little girl in that, but she was also in Veronica Mars,
Yep.
which
She was
I didn't watch.
also in a, I think it was late 90s live action Alice in Wonderland as
Really?
Alice. Yep.
Oh
I
wow.
can see that being pretty good.
And I believe she had a part in Waterworld as well
Interesting.
as one of the kids.
Yeah. I mean, all the
Go-
actors in here played their parts perfectly.
Also, is either she's a doppelganger, because I haven't verified this. Either she's kind of like a doppelganger, or is the grandma in Napoleon Dynamite Mac's mom in It's Always Sunny in
Yes.
Philadelphia?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Mac's mom.
I have a couple of notes that I kept while watching it, and the very first one I have isn't the Grandma Mac's mom.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yep. I did. So a couple of the notes that I had along those same lines were like, the intro is cool.
Yes. The
Like,
intro
the way
was
that they
really
showed
original.
All the credits. Exactly. Yeah. Because normally it would be like you pan over this landscape as names go off at the bottom and stuff like that. And this was like, put them on products, food,
Yeah.
like chapstick, anything
was
that
cool,
semi relates. Yeah. Yeah. So you actually enjoyed the movie the second time around. Well, second time around.
Yes, I did.
Years
Yes,
later.
second time around.
Nice. What about you, Becky? What do you, now that you watched it?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so I'll start by saying that the first time I watched it, it's kind of funny because I was much less mature then, obviously, because we were much younger and everything. And wow. And I was
just spent so much time talking about the Becky tingle. And
Yeah,
you're
that's
coming
true.
at me with saying you're a grown ass adult.
different genres of humor, all right, and maturity. Anyways,
That's fair.
The first time I watched it, I was really just indifferent to it. Like, I didn't hate the movie, but I wasn't like, oh man, this is a freaking classic, I love this movie. Like, it wasn't anything like that. I was just like, okay, yeah, that's a movie that exists. I watched it. It was fairly entertaining while I was watching it. Cool. And so this past time I watched it was roughly the same almost, except a little bit of like what Nick talked about. You know, you could actually you could view the movie from a kind of a different perspective after you've gone through some stuff in life and like actually see the, you know, understand the situations that are happening and actually see what's really going on. Like, when I was younger, I didn't know anything about like what Uncle Rico's part even was in this. I was like, whatever, Uncle Rico's there, I guess he exists. He's just annoying Napoleon. Okay, cool. But really, then you see that like Uncle Rico's this dude who's like hella stuck in the past and just really wants to go back to that 1 year so he can play quarterback. Like, he's just really attached to that high school thing. And so like you do see a lot more in like the characters and things like that. And so like this time, like it was enjoyable to watch. Like I was entertained while I was watching the movie for sure this time around. But like, I'm not like, oh hell yeah, I love this movie. Like, Napoleon Dynamite's so good. I'm just like, yeah, that was an entertaining movie. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts from it, I guess.
You know, if you just put me in the fourth quarter, I would be living in a mansion right now.
Yeah. If you just, oh my god, I just love how he keeps making those videos even though his right arm's broken. Like he got beat up and his right arm's broken and he's like, I can still do this, and he's like throwing with his left arm in the video. Oh my god, it's so good.
The kicker is he's doing the same thing each and every time. How many of those videos do you think he has?
Right, yeah. And it's like, what are those videos gonna do? Like, get him in on his high school team or something? I don't know.
Exactly. It's just holding on to the past.
You realize how whacked out Uncle Rico is when you're older and watch the movie. Like,
well, speaking of older, when I watched this movie, it was exactly the opposite of both of you. I actually didn't laugh a single time watching. Sorry, I laughed exactly one time while watching this movie. And it's when Uncle Rico grabbed the rock and chucked it at Napoleon's head while he was on the bike and got him in the face.
That wasn't a rock,
Yeah.
though. That was a steak.
that was a steak.
Was it a
yeah.
steak? Sorry, steak.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It was the other guy's steak. He just he grabbed his steak from his plate and just chucked it at Napoleon.
That's it. That was the only time. There were a couple like little chuckles and stuff, but I found myself really not enjoying it anymore. Like going through it, the awkwardness that the movie actually portrays throughout the whole thing, I just didn't enjoy whatsoever like I used to. I mean, I was that 100% annoying kid back then that was like that was constantly like that. Cringe factor was amazing, and that's all we lived for. And now as an adult rewatching it, it's just not the same by any means. I think the closest I felt for one of the characters was when how was it? Is it so the other guy that lives in Napoleon, is that his like 32-year-old brother, or is that his dad?
Yeah, that's
his brother.
It's his brother. Okay.
They both live with their grandmother.
That I knew, and I knew it was Uncle Rico. But Kip, when he is out showing people how like sturdy the plastic stuff Tupperware is, and he puts it behind the truck and he breaks it and just goes and drives off.
Yep.
Like I felt that. That's exactly what I do. It's like the situation's not going my way. I'm out. That's it.
Yeah. That was I actually like I agree. Like I was entertained during the movie just because of the situations and things like that were happening, but definitely didn't laugh very much during it. Yeah, like it wasn't like a funny movie to me anymore. There were funny parts like that actually, like when he ran that over and just goes and just drove away. I was like, that's funny. Like that's good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really like a funny movie anymore.
What about you, Nick? Did you laugh at all?
A little bit. Trying to think of any specific scenes here. For some reason, the one that gets me is Napoleon throwing the orange at Uncle Rico's van while he's driving, just having it splat, and then the two of them going and just wrestling and shit. Yeah. Then he scales the fence and just runs off into the field. Like, where's he going?
The part I loved about that scene is that means like Napoleon intercepted him on some random town street. Like that's not even near their house. He just intercepted him. He threw an orange at him and ran. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like this movie is less nowadays about being a funny overall movie. Like if I were to watch a Dodgeball right now, I would laugh my ass off. That movie's got so many great parts, so many great like quips that this kind of movie just doesn't have. But at the same time, I feel like there's way more quoted in Napoleon Dynamite that you can laugh at that are one-off things. Like in context of the movie, it doesn't add anything. It's not really beneficial, but when you say it in any other context, like meme context, conversation, anything, it makes like it just works and everybody understands where it was from and it's just funny.
So which Napoleon Dynamite quote has stuck with you through the years, John?
The amount of times I've used idiot is astronomical. So that's definitely number one for me. What about you?
For me, it was your mom goes to college.
I didn't know that was from this movie until I rewatched it.
Neither did I. I've used it for years, and I heard that in the background. I'm like, oh, shit, that's where it came from.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love how it just goes, that's it.
How about you, Becky?
Oh, man. In terms of quotes, I don't know. I can't really think one that like really like a quote that really sticks out. I mean, I can, of course, think about all the ones that people like quoted, like the Tina, you fat lard, come get your dinner and stuff like that. But like, I can't really think of a quote that sticks out. But
see, is there like
there's
quotes on this page here? That'd be funny. There's no darn.
A scene that sticks out to me though is when Uncle Rico like pretends that he's interested in getting his portrait taken by, I forgot what the main character girl's name was. But he Deb. He pretends like he's
Yeah.
interested in getting his portrait taken for Deb, and then he like, it's actually just a setup for trying to sell the like breast enlargement crap that he's trying to peddle or whatever. And he's like, yeah, Napoleon said that, you know, that you could use this or something like that. But you know what? Actually, as far as a quote that sticks out to me, I like the one where he like first approaches Deb and he's like, are you drinking 2% because you think you're fat? Because you could be drinking whole if you wanted to. That one's a pretty good one.
That one is so good out of context.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so weird in context.
Well, right, and I think that's the point of it, right? Is just to really show how socially awkward Napoleon Dynamite is. And so, yeah, I think that's probably a quote that sticks with me because that's a pretty good one.
A fun little fact. Actually, I just saw this. Summer, the popular girl,
Yeah.
is Haley Duff, Hilary Duff's sister.
Oh,
I could see that.
Yep.
Okay.
It's interesting because when you look at them, they look a lot alike. It's kind of crazy. Yep. I was like, I thought that was interesting. So a couple other quotes though that I thought that like back when I was a kid and I loved this movie, we'd use anytime we got to talk about tots.
Oh,
That'd be like, you gonna eat your tots?
Some of your tots. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Stuff
he just
like that.
kicks his pocket. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. Give me some of your tots. But the other one I found myself using recently. I forgot who said it that started me saying it. But whenever anyone says anything that I'm going to answer yes to, it's chess.
Oh.
And it's Pedro. He does that
Yeah.
when sitting on the bench. He just says chess. So there's that one too. There's so many quotes from this movie. There's so many different memes from this movie that it's hard not to quote it, and everyone understands it. But I feel like it's better contextually than, or like conversationally than in the actual movie.
Yeah, like it has more value as like yeah, I watched that movie too, instead of like actually the movie itself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see if we
Now,
can find
let me
any other
ask-
quotes.
Oh, all right. We're not moving on yet.
And you can go. No, you can ask.
Okay, no, I was gonna ask, and I was actually gonna start with John because we never start with John ever.
That's fair. That's fair.
But so that's why I wanted to introduce this next section here and start with John. John, what is like a part of like a part or a
Did
thing?
he stop
or
for
a
you
scene?
too?
What?
Oh, now I can hear you. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
You couldn't hear me? Oh
No.
I was like lighting up and stuff as if you
Yeah, he's
could
good.
still hear me.
Maybe it was
okay.
my internet. Well,
Jeez,
cut
John.
that, cut that.
More work in post processing for you, John.
I'm not even going to cut it. Spoilers. It's going to be in there. My bad.
Nice.
It's on me. Go ahead.
All right.
Introduce that new topic that I didn't hear, but other people may have heard.
Yeah, I don't think I actually said it yet. But I'm going to start with John because we never get to start with John. So I want to know what like a part of the, like a part or a scene or something of Napoleon Dynamite that really stuck out to you as something that like brought back some nostalgia from that time period. Like,
So,
just something that you remember from then.
I'd been thinking about this one since you brought it up 45 minutes ago. And I think for me, getting away from any like I remember watching this as a kid kind of thing, nostalgia specifically from the movie is their TV that they have.
Oh, yeah.
So the TV that they have the top loader VHS on that they shut and they watch, but it's got like the mesh on the side and the TV's built into the cabinet with all this stuff.
The speakers on the each side of it under the mesh.
Yeah. My grandma had that back at one of her old houses, and I remember specifically watching TV on it, and it brought back some fun memories.
Yeah,
of
the
watching,
grandma
like,
TV paired with those floral print brown couches. Just
when did
really
this take
sets the scene.
place? What time period are we looking at here? Because
What universe?
we have
That's
the
a good
internet.
question, actually.
It shows it's like the 70s. Everything is 70s with like the van, the dress, like the way everyone's dressed, the couches, the people, everything. And then like Rico says that his wife left him because he was stuck in 82. And I was like, but then there's the internet. Like they're talking online chat rooms.
Yeah, it I think takes place in 2004. You have to think about like, so the grandmother would have bought all this stuff
Yeah.
probably in the late 70s,
that's
early
true.
80s.
Yeah.
Rico is stuck there, so he's wearing bell bottoms that were just going out of style in the early 80s and driving that van. So I don't, yeah, the movie itself is set in 2004, but there are people in it who are just stuck in different times.
See, I was thinking
funny.
more that it was like late 90s, which don't get me wrong, close to 2004. But somewhere in some Midwesty town that's completely secluded from everything.
Yeah, we in New York in 2004 were probably way different than Idaho in 2004.
Yeah, exactly.
They were probably New York 1996.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
reading
there's nostalgic
that
piece.
Yeah, I'm reading that it was based on the 2004-2005 school year, and it was actually shown on Napoleon's student ID card in the title sequence. So it was based on the 2004 school year. It's just there's like, throwbacks to these different time periods, like the 80s and 90s. Notably, like Deb wearing a side ponytail and the moon boots for Napoleon and stuff like that.
Yeah,
allegedly. So,
Yeah.
how about you, Nick? What scene or thing or something that you saw in the movie just made you really nostalgic?
So the first thing that caught me and made me really nostalgic was the Trapper Keeper. That was just a big shot of nostalgia for me. Everyone had Trapper Keepers. They all had their cool designs and stuff. And just seeing that right in the beginning was awesome. The other thing that stood out for me was having to call people's house phones and ask for them.
Yep.
And like just having to think about all of the different ways you had to approach the conversation based on who picked up the phone. It was just such an anxiety-inducing scenario.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Sitting there,
Oh my
hey, is Nick home? No. Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye.
The person that answers the phone at Pedro's house, I thought this was funny because she looked familiar, and I went and looked for the actor's name, and you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. They are an unnamed actor, and the character that they play is like their school kid, but this one is girl who answered the phone when Napoleon first called Pedro's house uncredited.
Wow.
It's like, okay, you could have just said Pedro's sister or something like that.
Yeah, just make it up. Yeah, like Jesus. That's funny.
But nope, they went out on a limb.
Wow. Yeah, and so I'll move on to me now. So the first thing, it was really, really early on in the movie, actually, because it was during the title credits as well. And it was just the note cards that are in library books that you would write your name in. Yeah, you'd write your name in or some stupid crap or whatever that go in the, like, I had totally forgotten about that as a thing, like in like the textbooks, right, that you get in the classrooms or whatever they are.
Yeah. Where
you just have the little card that you slide in the pocket that's like stickered right to the front cover of that book, and you write your name and stuff like that down. And then the other thing for me, it's not like super nostalgic for me, but it like reminded me of what I know about the times then, is that like Uncle Rico ordered a time machine from some like some random, and I mean, there's obviously still a bit of that today, but like it's really interesting how like the faith that people had in the items that they ordered from some random whatever the hell number they called just working as what was advertised. Like, oh man, this dude's selling a time machine. I'm going to call him up, give him my credit card information over the phone, and I'm going to get a time machine sent to my house. Like, just obviously I think Uncle Rico had a little bit of desperation in his faith for a time machine working, but
a little bit.
It's kind of, it's a little indicative of like, older people at that time just ordering random crap
whatever
like
they
that
see
over
on the
phone.
internet, or whatever
Yeah.
they see
You
on
get the same
TV.
thing with Kip, I think, and his internet girlfriend.
His chat rooms, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going through that whole movie just wondering who he's actually talking to.
Yeah, and then
LaFonda.
he like strikes gold somehow. Like that
Yeah.
that whole thing cracks me up. Strikes gold.
What's even better is not only was he not catfish, but he completely changes who he is,
Yeah.
like on a
Immediately.
fundamental level,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
to
man.
be like the guy that she wants. And like she was into him. And
Yeah.
it shows throughout the whole thing, and like just him wearing like the do-rag and stuff, and
Oh my god.
like
It's
Pierce.
oh man. Yeah.
It's really good. I mean, like the writing, I cannot deny that the writing in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, like it's like the individual situations are really well written, but they're like they feel like they're cobbled together. Like each individual situation and the little individual storylines for each character is like, is like really well written. And then it's just like randomly just slapped in place in this movie. It's interesting.
I think that's a really good way to put it, because with like I'm trying to think of the overarching storyline, and I guess the only one I can come up with is a love story between Deb and Napoleon. That is the only one.
So I feel like the story. So if you go back to when the brothers go to the dojo, right, for Rex Kwon Do.
Rex Kwon Do.
Of course. Yeah.
When Rex goes over his, I think it was like his like 3 tenets of Rex Kwon Do. They start off with the buddy system, then discipline your image, and then self-respect. And it follows that. So the first thing he does, Napoleon, that is, first thing he does is become friends with Pedro. So he's got a buddy who's got his back, right?
And then he asks him, he explicitly asks him,
Yes,
hey, like, you've got my back, right? And then
Right.
Pedro's like, yeah, sure.
And then we progress through a little bit more, getting ready for the dance, getting the suit all suited up. That whole walk scene is the discipline of his image. And then at the end, when everything's tied up, coming together, we've got the love interest, all that fun stuff. We've got that self-respect there for Napoleon.
Yeah.
So I do feel like there was definitely an overarching story.
I didn't even catch that actually on
either.
my first watch through in years, but actually self-respect also probably came from the dancing and getting Pedro elected as well.
That was my favorite scene in this movie. That was hands down first and second watch, both of them. That was my favorite scene.
Yeah, the dance scene is pretty iconic.
Evolution of dance. There's that same thing where like people dance like that for years after that.
Yeah, what's kind of funny about that is so my my 2-year-old daughter, she occasionally watches Blippi, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Blippi on YouTube.
Nope.
But he does various things. It's like a kid's show, obviously, because she's 2, but he like goes to places like Billy B's and the camera follows him around while he's like, this is green and this is blue. Like he like plays on the kids stuff, but teaches them things. It's stupid, but the kids love it.
Sure.
One of the things that he does actually is in one of the things he pretends like he's going up to a stage to do like a comedy bit. Like he's going to do stand-up comedy, like as like at this place that's for kids to do different thing, like, artistic expression and stuff like that they want to do. And so he goes up and starts doing like comedy bits and tells like 2 like really bad jokes. And he's like, oh my God, this is going so bad. I don't know what to do. And then he's like, oh, I know. And then he like throws the fake microphone aside. And then he starts doing the Napoleon dance. And I was like, hey, I know where that's from.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're such an old person.
I know, yeah. I'm like watching my daughter's freaking YouTube show, and I'm like, Napoleon Dynamite. Like I've seen that movie, but yeah, it was a funny little throwback that I noticed.
I honestly, you see it in pop culture all the time, like almost more than just about everything else. Like Napoleon Dynamite's been out there so much that It's hard. I bet if you really listened, you could hear something like at least once a week from that movie. Still,
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Yeah.
19 years later, which is absolutely crazy. Let's actually move on here to our nice little movie rating. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a rating from 1 to 5. Now, this is important, okay? We're not rating how good the movie is, okay? Because that's been done. I mean, there's 1,000 different podcasts out there specifically about movie ratings and stuff like that. If you want to go watch those, go watch those. This is specifically about nostalgia. So what I want is a 1 through 5 on how nostalgic it made you rewatching this movie. I guess that's difficult. That's not quite how nostalgic it made you, and how do I
Or like
put
maybe
it
how much of a nostalgic impact did this movie have on you? Maybe like just in general.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, basically, I don't want you to say like this movie was bad because it had bad plot points and the acting sucked, which it didn't.
Right,
But
yeah.
but I also don't want you to say this was a perfect movie because the storyline was fantastic and the acting was great. I want it to be like, I gave this a 5 because when I was a kid, this was such an incredible thing that it changed my life.
Yeah. Oh man! All
Something
right, so
like
5
that.
is life changing. All right, we're starting to figure out the scale here. 5 is life changing,
and a 1 is like, I watched it as a kid and I wound up getting sick for 3 days, and my parents disowned me on that third day.
I was gonna say 1 is I watched it as a kid and I'm addicted to heroin now. My life is in shambles.
Now we have the 2 sides of the scale. Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
No decimal points. These are static numbers. That's it. Make sense?
All right.
All right. So we're gonna start with Nick. What do you think?
This movie took a big jump for me. So, as we talked about before, it was something I hated when it came out, and I feel like it's a solid 3. There were a ton of scenes that were just kind of bringing me back to those awkward high school moments, and you see a lot of reflection in those the people like Uncle Rico that really peaked in high school and never left that mentality. It was good. I enjoyed it a lot more than I had expected.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. If it's, made you think of that time frame and made you actually nostalgic based on the characters, even more than just the movie, that
Right.
understandable, be over that halfway point.
Nice.
What about you, Becky?
Yeah, so actually I'm also going to give it a solid 3. If I could so the reason that it gets above the middle mark is because 1, you said no decimals, so we cannot hit the middle.
Correct.
And 2, unless we're doing 0 indexing. If we're doing 0 indexing, then that makes 2 the middle. Okay.
If we did 0 indexing, all of our other 1-star reviews would make 0 sense.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Now you're talking in binary 1s and 0s. Anyways, yeah, so I give it a 3 because, so honestly, it didn't really have, like I said, I watched it twice, so it had really no impact on me very much. It had a little bit of impact in that I would hear other people quoting it, and I thought Tina, you fat lard, come get your dinner is a pretty funny to say to a llama back then, and things like that. But it didn't really I watched it twice in my whole life, so it obviously didn't have that much of an impact. But I gave it a 3 because going back and watching it this past week, it seeing things like those note cards, that the checkout cards for the books, and the just all that older stuff and stuff like that. It did end up bringing me back to that, and I was like, oh my god, I remember those. And like you said about the TV, my mom had one of those TVs that had the speakers built in with the mesh over and stuff. Yeah, and so it was it did bring me back, so that's why I give it a 3. Yeah.
Nice. I don't know. So I was going to give it a 3. That was my plan. So
we gave it 3, so you have to be different, right?
I would have given this a 5 back in the day when I watched it with my friends as a kid. Like, I thought this movie was like incredible and nothing could ever top it, kind of thing. It's hilarious in all the right ways. And rewatching it now, I was like, I'd give it like a 2, maybe. But here's the thing. Those average out obviously to like 3.5, so like 3, but I'm going to give it a 4. And the reason I'm going to give it a 4 and it's getting jumped up is specifically because the last hour talking about it has brought back so many memories, and it's just been fun to talk about. And I didn't realize until talking with everybody these scenes that are so iconic that, I mean, in phrases I use every day, in pictures I see, in videos I watch. It's just everywhere. And I guess I didn't lump that in the nostalgia factor of the movie itself while watching it. I just watched it like a movie. But talking about it for the last hour made me realize that I use these things. I do it. So it means more to me, nostalgia-wise, than I originally thought it was. So I'm going to bump that from a 3.5 that I was going to round down to a 3 all the way up to a 4. I think it deserves it. I think it's iconic.
All right.
I think it was good back then and still pretty decent now.
Like you said, people are quoting it 19 years later.
Exactly. Yeah. So how bad could it be?
Yep. It could be one of those, like, I mean, it kind of almost was like one of those hilariously bad movies, but like that storyline, or the like almost lack thereof, which actually Nick just enlightened me to the 3 tenets that actually was a theme throughout the rest
pillars.
of the movie, which is really cool. Yeah, pillars, which is really cool, actually. But even though there was like that movie could have been an absolute flop.
100%.
Like, oh my god, it's like the stupidest plot lines but the acting, I don't know how they got that kind of movie quality out of $400,000 budget, to be completely honest with you. Like, it's just solid. I mean, obviously they're not having to shoot at a lot of locations, so I bet that saved a lot of money, but it's just that the movie is what it is because of all the work that was put into making that movie. Even though a lot of people probably think that the storyline is kind of stupid and all that, which, I mean, it kind of is, but it's like the American version of a slice of life anime almost, except it's like following an awkward kid instead of the popular kid in school. Right? So,
yeah,
but
I think that's really well said. It was a good movie. That's the best I can say. I mean, a 4 out of 5 means, I guess, it's a great movie. 5 out of 5 is perfect. 3 out of 5 is good. 2 out of 5 is okay. And 1 out of 5 is bad. I think that's a pretty solid way to judge these, especially if we can rationalize everything. And we'll go ahead and
I think getting addicted to heroin and ruining your life is a little bit worse than just the word bad, but sure, we'll go with that.
We'll reserve that for 0.
Well, yeah. Hopefully no movie made you go and start doing heroin at such a young age. So hopefully we'll never be able to hit that 0. Sound good?
Yep. All right.
Sounds great.
Hey, we'll hope. All right.
We'll hope. I think that's a good place to leave it. So thank you all for listening. Make sure you check out our YouTube and throw a subscribe to us, a like on the video, a comment underneath on what you thought of Napoleon Dynamite. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, please give us a 5-star review and we will read it on the podcast. I just realized that people can do that, and we probably should talk about that at the beginning of the podcast so that they know and can do that. But thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Nostalgia Podcast. We will see you guys next week.
Thank you.